Good morning. My name is Sanjay from KV number 1, Bathinda, Kent, Chandigarh region. Today I am going to take up a lesson from Vistas, and the name of the lesson is Memories of Childhood, which is chapter number 8, written by Zitkala Sa and Bama. So actually we do have two parts in this chapter, Memories of Childhood. So first part is written by Zitkalasa, and second part is written by Bama. So the name of the first part is The Cutting of My Long Hair by Zitkalasa. Second part is We Too Are Human Being by Bama. Both parts of Memories of Childhood are autobiographical accounts of author's childhood. So these are the incidents which took place during childhood of Zitkalasa and Bama. Memories of Childhood explores a common universal theme of prejudice and humiliation faced by marginalized communities from mainstream culture, and how both brave girls use their education to stand up for their own and community rights, both use the power of pen to find oppression. Zitkalasa, when she joined Karlsruhe Indian School, she faced this humiliation. She has to wear shingle hair and tight dresses. So she felt humiliation and embarrassment. While Bama, when she was in village, she was only in third class. When she was not aware of this term untouchability, she has experienced and she has felt the pain of untouchability. So let us start with the first part, The Cutting of My Long Hair by Zitkala Sa. First of all, we will read about the author. Gertrude Simon Bonnen, born in 1876, was an extraordinarily talented and educated Native American woman who struggled and triumphed in a time when severe prejudice prevailed towards Native American culture and work. As a writer, she adopted the pen name Zitkala Sa, and in 1900 began publishing articles criticizing the Karlsruhe Indian School. Her work recited dogma and her life as a Native American woman was dedicated against the evils of oppression. Now I'll give you introduction of the lesson, The Cutting of My Long Hair. The Cutting of My Long Hair is a story that showcases the discrimination faced by the Indians in the Western world. The story describes how an Indian girl was forced to wear Western dresses and cut her hair by her school authorities in order to make her look like an American student. Now we will discuss the summary of this chapter. The writer describes that her first day in the land of apples was extremely cold. The ground was fully covered with snow, whereas the trees were not covered with snow. A bell rang, indicating breakfast time. It was a loud sound that broke through the bell of bell tower and reached into their sensitive ears. The disturbing sound of tip-top of the shoes was making the writer restless. There was a continuous noise everywhere as if the sound were clashing with each other. There were people who were talking in an unknown language. She got so disturbed that she felt as if her freedom was lost. A woman with yellow face and white hair went up to see the girls. Zitkala Sa was placed in the line of girls who were heading towards the dining hall. She describes that they were the Indian girls who were wearing hard shoes and tight dresses. The small girls were wearing sleeved aprons and their hair were cut short. Zitkalasa was walking without making any noise of her shoes. She felt so ashamed when her blanket was removed from her shoulders. All the other Indian girls seemed to be very indecent to her, as all of them wearing tight clothes, which were not a good thing as per the right. As they were going to the dining room, the boys came from the opposite room. The writer notices the three boys who, according to her, were brave. She says so because they were also the new entrant into the school and were not wearing the dress like others. She looked at them while they were standing behind her. They were also not comfortable like her. A small bell rang and all the students dragged their chairs. The writer also pulled her chair and she at once gets seated. But she found herself being noticed by all others as none of them had seated. The next bell rang and all the others seated themselves. The writer also did it once again just to mend her mistake. Suddenly, she heard a manly voice from one corner of the room. She tries to see the man, but found everyone looking down towards their plates. While she was looking at them, she saw that the yellow faced woman was constantly looking at her. She dropped her eyes, but was feeling uncomfortable about being watched like that. The man stopped speaking, and with the ringing of the bell the third time, all of them picked up their forks and knives. The writer got so afraid by the time that she was started crying, as she didn't want to get into such risky task anymore. The writer says that the way of eating was not the only thing which she thought to be the hardest one, but there was one more terrible thing that her friend Judavin told her. As she could understand a few words of English, so she had heard the pale faced women saying that their hair should be cut down. The writer didn't want to do it because she had heard her mother saying that only untrained warriors that are arrested by the enemy cut their hair. In their community, only those who either were at funeral or were coward cut short their hair. As Zitkala saw was neither a weakling nor a mourner, she didn't want to cut her hair. Both Judevin and Zitkala discussed about their destiny as they knew that their hair will be cut short. Judevin was of a view that they should agree to what the authorities wanted to do, as they were strong then than these two girls. But the author was not ready for it, and so she decided to go against the school authorities. She went upstairs very quietly without being noticed in order to safeguard her. She was trying to walk very quietly because of her moccasins were changed with shoes that make sound while walking. She crossed the hall and went into a room without knocking where she was going. She entered in a room which had three beds and green curtains making it a bit dark. She then crawled under a bed and hides herself from those who want to cut her hair. The writer shivered shivered with the voice of footsteps whenever she tried to look out of her hiding place. She could hear many voices calling out for her name, including her friend Judith. She didn't reply to them. Soon she heard the sound of steps and voices. Growing stronger and stronger, women and girls entered into the room where she was hiding. They were searching for her everywhere. Even the curtains were also removed. Soon she found under the bed and was pulled out of it. She tried hard to safeguard herself, even stabbed the other person, but she was taken away and tied up to the chair. The author cried a lot as she doesn't want anyone to cut her hair. Suddenly she felt a pair of scissors behind her neck, and soon her hair was cut. She lost all her confidence and felt that she had always been humiliated since she was taken away from her mother. She recalled all her bad moments that embarrassed her as people gasped on her. She was thrown into the air like a puppet, but this time her hair was cut down and she felt like a coward. She was crying. She wailed for her mother as she used to console her in her sad moments, but today no one came to console her. No one tried to know her point of view. She felt like an animal that is part of a herd and is being herded by someone. This means now she was being controlled by someone. So this was the incident which took place when Titala Sa attended Karlsley Indian School, and she was humiliated and she was embarrassed also because her hair was cut down forcefully. So now we will talk about second part of this chapter. We too are human being by Bama. So first of all, we will read about the author. Bama is the pen name of Tamil Dalit woman from a Roman Catholic family. She has published three main works: an autobiography, Karuku, 1992, a novel, Sangati, 1994, and a collection of short stories, Kisumbukara, 1996. The following excerpts have been taken from Karuku. Karuku means palm leaves, which with their serrated edges on both sides are like double-edged swords. By a felicitous pun, the Tamil word Karuku containing the word Karu, embryo, or seed also means freshness, newness. Now I'll give you the introduction of the chapter. We too are human beings. The lesson describes the story of a fun-loving little girl. She loves to observe every bit of things happening in and around her street. But one day, while noticing an incident, she comes to know about the reality of social evil in our country, that is, the practice of untouchability. The writer says that when she was a student in the third class, she had never heard anyone speaking openly about untouchability. And she was not also familiar with this term untouchability, but she has experienced it. But she by then had already seen and felt it. For her, it was very embarrassing to experience the concept of untouchability. The writer says that one day she was coming back home from her school. She was carrying an old bag with her. The distance between her school and home was only 10 minutes, but she would take 30 minutes to reach her home. It was so because she used to waste her time in the street watching all the fun and games happening there. She used to see new or sometimes strange things happening there. And then there were the shops and the bazaar that she loved to see. The writer described those things which she watched in the street or the bazaar. There was a performing monkey, a snake charmer who could make snakes move by playing dance music. He would keep the snake in a box and display it from time to time. There was a cyclist also who had been riding his bicycle from past 3 days. He pedaled hard to continue his riding as he was into some kind of contest. Somebody had pinned the rupee note on his shirt so as to encourage him and keep him going on his cycle. Then there was a spinning wheel and the Marietta tank. There was a huge bell hanging inside the tent. The Pongal offering, that is a particular dish cooked during Pongal, was cooked outside this temple. There were dried fishes also. Next, she described that there was stall of sweets and fried snacks and other shops next to each other. There were street lights that turned violet from blue, and then the Nariku River, a stripe in South India. He had a lemur, an animal that looks like a monkey in a cage. He was a seller of needles, clay beads, and some instruments used for cleaning. These sights of various things were so entertaining for her that it prevents her from going further. The writers say that sometimes the people from various political parties would come in this street and put up a stage to deliver lecture for all of them. Sometimes street plays puppet show, and no magic, no wonder acts were also staged in the street. So basically, there was a regular display of such entertaining acts in the street. She further says that even if no such acts were staged in the street, then also there were the coffee clubs in the bazaar. She liked the way waiters cooled the coffee by pouring it from one jug. There were some other people who used to sit in front of their shops and chop onions. They always turned their eyes on the other side so as to save them from getting teary. Other interesting things for the writer was an almond tree that was still growing and whose fruit was blown away by the wind. All these sights were so very interesting for the writer that she couldn't help her from stopping there and watching. She feels like her legs being tied up so that she could not reach her. There were sellers of various things in the bazaar. They used to sell items as per the season, so there were mango, cucumbers, sugarcane, sweet potato, gram, palm syrup, gavas, and jackfruit for sale. Even the writer saw many other sellers selling sweet and spicy snacks, halwa, boiled tamarind, seeds, and iced lollies. So the writer was quite a good observer, and she used to notice every bit of thing happening in the market street. The writer says that looking at all those kids and beautiful things all day, she then entered her own street on the opposite side of the street. There was a newly made threshing floor, a flattened outdoor surface made to separate grain from straw. The landlord was sitting on a stone shelf and was watching people work in his field. She then describes the laborers who are working in the field. They belong to the writer's community. She says that they are very hardworking and they were driving the cattle in pair in the field. They were doing so to separate the grain from the straw. Further, she says that the mouth of the animals was covered so as to stop them from eating grain. All this was such a fun to watch for her. Then she saw an elder person who was her neighbor coming from bazaar. He was carrying a packet of some snack with him. The manner in which the old man was walking made her burst into laugh. He was handing it at some distance from his body. She says that she came to know that packet contains vadai or green banana bhaji. She guessed it because of the oily spots on the packet. The man was carrying it by the thread. This made the writer think that this way of handling a packet could lead to fall of its contents. The old man went up to the landlord. He bends down to show respect to the landlord and holding his hand out, he offered the carry bag to the landlord. The landlord took the parcel and started eating vadais out of it. After watching all this, she went back to her home. She narrated the whole incident of the old man to her elder brother. She was laughing out by recalling the way that big man was handling the packet, but her brother Anna didn't find it funny. He told her that the man wasn't being funny. He did it because he belongs to a lower caste. People from upper caste do not touch us as this would make them impure. Even the food should be handled by the strengths if it is for the upper caste. This is why the old man was carrying it like this. When she heard all this from her brother, the writer became very sad. She wanted to know how people of upper caste could have such a belief about their community. She knew that vadais are first packed in banana leaves and then in parcel. So how could they get polluted with their touch? She felt so angry at this that she decided to go and touch those vadais herself. She then questioned herself again as to why we have to go and bring things for these upper caste people. She also felt bad for that elder person who was one of the important people of her tribe. She said he even had to go to bring things for them. He had to handle all that with great respect to such a person who just sits there and pops the things into his mouth. This thought filled her with anger. The writer says that what if the upper caste people have some money with them? Does that mean that they will not treat others nicely? She says that we are also human beings and should be treated like a human. She also thinks that people from her community should not do such small tasks of bringing food for them. We should work in their fields, take our wages, and then leave. We should never do extra work for them. Writer's elder brother had come home for the holidays. He was a student in a university. He was on his way to his home from neighboring village where he had gone to borrow books from the library. He was walking along an irrigation pond where he was stopped by one of the men of the landlord. He was asked his name. Anna told his name. He then inquired about his trade so that he could know his caste. Anna told the whole incident to the writer. He also told her that they were born into a low caste. They will never get any respect from the upper caste. They are deprived of all this, but if they study hard and make progress in their life, they can throw away this disrespect. He suggested his sister to study hard and stay ahead over others, as this would earn her respect and company from others. The word of the elder brother touched her so deeply that she started working hard, almost like a mad person. As Anna had asked, she stood first in her class, and because of this, she made so many friends. So, this is all we have got for this session. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Thank you.